We're on. Hey,
All
everybody. Right. Welcome back to another episode of The Blab, or the Hazmat Nation Roundtable, or the Hazmat Guys Nation. I still can't put this all together. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
I'm Michael Monaco, here with Bob Cosch and Phil Ambrose, and we're going to be chatting about Hazmat stuff. So our fourth guy seems to be a little MIA today. That's okay. We'll do it without, and hopefully, if anyone has anything good and they've been vetted for the audio, we can have them jump on.
Awesome.
What did we have as a topic today? I believe we were going to be talking about some of the vault fires and underground fires, and a couple other little things floating around.
I tell you, it was quite a busy. I mean, just today alone, if people saw the different things that were happening around the country, it was a very busy day in the hazmat world.
Yeah, Hazmat Nation seemed to be popping stuff out like crazy as far as what was going on.
Jason did a great job today.
He does a great job every day.
I just fired him, so I don't know. He doesn't have his audacity going, so I just fired him.
So anybody? There was something happened in Florida, didn't it, Bob?
Yeah. I tell you what. I think we got one or two newcomers actually. Some people haven't seen her. I'm Bob Cosch. I'm Hazmat Lieutenant with Orlando Fire Department. I'm also trainer with Hazmat, and we'll pass it off down to Phil because the way I'm looking at it in our Brady Bunch screen we got.
Yeah, here. I'm right below Mike. I'm Phil Ambrose. I'm sitting here from California. I'm a hazmat captain, California, and I am also a HazSim trainer, and I'm with Hazmat Nation.
And I'm Michael Monaco. I am New York City Fire, as well as co-host of the Hazmat Guys, and I'm with you tonight. There we go.
All right. Yeah. So there was. Where do you want to start off? Because I mean, Florida's been. We do a lot of things. Most not right, but
ticking time bomb of.
We obviously can't count. A little plug for the elections coming up. So there was if you want to go, we'll talk about. How about we talk about the little explosion in St. Pete? We'll go there first before we hit the waste management thing. So there was an incident in St. Pete this morning where they actually had, and if you guys go to hazmatnation.com, you actually see the video of it. There was a video taken where they had what appeared to be a vault fire. Now, there's all kinds of different vaults. I've actually had them in downtown Orlando where you had an electrical vault, or you've had vaults that connect to sewage systems, and there's all kinds of different vaults. We had one that was a natural gas leak, and we could actually see the flow of the gas going over the vault, which was kind of weird and scary. But apparently what they had in St. Pete it looked like an electrical vault fire, probably involving some of the wires and the casings of the wires, obviously, which those in of itself are toxic. But if you look at the video, and not to Monday morning quarterback anything, because we weren't there and I would never, ever do that. But they set up a perimeter. My personal opinion, maybe a little close for the guys, because if you look at the video, they were kind of standing close. But but if you look at the smoke, it was very, kind of wisping. It wasn't a big deal. So I kind of get what they were doing. But then within minutes, and I'm talking like 2 or 3, the smoke just grew exponentially, and you could see it getting bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden, luckily, somebody, I don't know if it was one of the officers, said, "Hey, let's back up a little bit." And within a couple seconds of that, it blew up. The video, it's funny, it made the world news tonight on ABC News. I was watching a little while ago, and they showed the aftermath where it showed heavy, thick black smoke coming out of several vaults or sewage openings or whatever they are, coming out in the middle of the street. So, that's something that sometimes we take a little bit for granted, but I think that'd be a good one to talk about, first response. What do you do?
Absolutely. Yeah, I tried to drop the video in there, Bob. It didn't work, but if you haven't seen it, go. It'll be on all the regular news, and we put it up on Hazmat Nation too. Yeah, the vault fires. I remember Bobby sent me some pics of when you went on a small one a couple months ago. But it's an interesting history outside of this Jacksonville incident. And I know Mike, as Bob just mentioned it, with what the heck's going on with those? What's burning? What's causing all that?
Inside, well, a lot of times, all right. So for us in the Northeast, you got a couple different things. One, a lot of times for us, it's salt. We're throwing down tons of salt on the road. Salt gets in, starts corroding wires, starts shorting things out, things burn. In the summertime, generally, it's from being overloaded. At least here in New York City, it's something that it happens quite frequently. We get manhole fires all the time. Vault fires, things along those lines. The big ones, not so common, but generally it's just things get hot, things start to burn, and then it cycles out of control. You got all the plastics down there, all the wires, the any kind of fabric. Here in the city, everything's bunched together, so we've got natural gas pipelines that are running right next to these things, and they can get pretty big pretty quick.
I did notice, because you guys had one back in January, because I looked it up on Hazmat Nation, the Lower Manhattan. It was had it up here. The officials with Con Ed said the explosion was likely due to a combination of snow melt. I guess that snow melt with the water and even the salt. Actually, they put that snow melt and salt on the underground electrical lines.
Wait. What's snow? That's the white stuff, right? That melts.
It is the white stuff.
Just
not the stuff you wipe off your face.
No, that's South.
Different.
That's South Florida.
Yeah.
Never mind. Totally. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, it's it honestly it happens all the time, and we get them from little wisps of smoke that an engine has to sit on for hours, or a raging fire that pushes. Don't forget, everything in the city is interconnected into the manhole system. So we'll get smoke and chemicals and stuff pushing into buildings from the street. So it's for us, it's quite an operation. And just recently, about a year ago, we had a guy that I worked with. He was a kind of a senior man when I was a probie, and then he became a boss. He ended up one of these manhole covers blew, vault, and the manhole cover blew, and it almost took his leg off. He's pretty critically injured. I think he's still kind of in rehab and stuff like that. So it's they can be pretty bad. And they can get bad really quick. Yeah, like you said, they didn't seem to have much, and then all of a sudden, bam.
Yeah, gone. Yeah, and you mentioned about all these different things that can run through it, like natural gas lines and stuff like that. We actually had one probably about 3-4 years ago now, where 2:30 in the morning, clubs were letting out, in Florida, at least in our area, clubs close out at 2. I know in New York and other places, 24/7. But as we pulled up, we got out of the truck, and you can actually see a wave of gas going across the ground, and then go up, obviously, because natural gas is heavier than air. And when the gas company showed up on their meter, obviously when we stepped off the truck, our LEL hit 100% right away. When they popped the vault open, luckily we were in a enriched environment. So because there were ignition sources all over the place, people coming out of the bar, we probably had 200 or 300 people we had to evacuate quickly and shut down a major road. But fortunately, we were in that enriched environment of the gas. We were above the upper explosive limits, which kind of helped us, and actually, I think, quite honestly, saved us until the gas company could shut it down remotely. But to watch it in the vault before it escaped with this kind of wave was something I'd never seen ever in my life. And honestly, it scared the hell out of me.
Wow. One of the things that came to mind too, because I guess it was Bobby and I when we got the pleasure to interview Paul Rogers on the modern batteries. And one of the things that stuck with me outside of the whole battery thing is, and I've rewatched it a couple times, and he was talking about with the battery backup system, but how more and more now just going to shut off the power at a main power panel with the arc flash. So now you got the arc flash, which is different than what we're talking about with this video, but all the hazards. I know in LA Fire had back in 2008, they had underground electrical burning, and if I remember it correctly, it was Brent Lovern was the guy's name, but he was on a rotary saw cutting open. I believe it was it was the power intake. Sorry, losing my word. It wasn't a vault per se, but it was on a commercial structure, and they were making access. And I believe the NIOSH report predicted that the spark from the rotary saw ignited, which was the after action report said it was old electrical lines that had been smoldering underground, and so all those hydrocarbons coming off of it gave that rich environment, and went to go breach this door, and of course he lost his life with the resulting explosion. And I remember the AO, his engineer, the apparatus operator on the truck, also was severely injured. Seemed like a fluke, but watching that video today, not the Monday morning quarterback, but you see any sort of acrid smoke pumping out of what appeared to be a confined space, it would get me puckering a little bit.
Yeah, and just to kind of mention what Jason Kerr just popped up there, 3-phase. Yep.
3-phase for what?
For what Phil was talking about.
Oh, as far as the power going in,
right? Well, and let's get into this real quickly before we go on to the other, because a lot of breaking news this week. I think as a first new company officer, the first thing I'm going to do as an engine company is that, I'm going to pop in and size it up. I'm going to stop short, walk up probably a couple blocks away, depending on the information I got from dispatch, size up what we got, and then automatically call for PD to block off the intersections. If it's in a downtown area, like what I saw and appeared to be, where I wasn't sure if it was offices or bars or what have you, but I would try to shelter in place. However, with that being said, I would shelter in place and move those people to the back side of the building. So many times we talk about sheltering in place, and we don't talk about moving them away from, or as far away from as possible, the actual hazard side of the building. So I would shelter in place, try to get people to go the opposite side of the building, however means necessary. And then obviously you're going to call for your electric company or utilities or whomever it is and get them there ASAP to either remotely shut it off or be that liaison. Hey, what are we dealing with? What do we need to do? Because that's your field of expertise, not ours.
And a note on that: if you're in an area like I'm in, a lot of these buildings are deeply interconnected with the manhole systems and the electrical systems and the piping systems. And as you're sheltering in place, you should also be having people in the vicinities, in the basements, in the surrounding buildings, monitoring for CO levels and things along those lines. You want to make sure that no toxic gas is being pushed into the places that you're having people shelter in place.
Right.
That's something
absolutely.
that we do almost uniformly throughout our job.
Right.
And
so that's from an officer's point of view. Phil, you got anything from a incident command point of view, kind of a bigger picture?
I think when you're going into something like, until it's completely determined, meaning you mentioned all the different, and your town's got all sorts of underground caverns, like, probably more so than anybody else, although there's parts out here in any of our towns. There's a saying down in the port area of Los Angeles that if you dropped, a quarter on the ground in any one spot and it went straight through the earth, it hit, no fewer than a dozen different pipelines. So of course you're always, as an IC and first in, you're planning for the worst. Is it a gas leak? Is it a vault fire? All the different hazards that it could be. Heck, it could be, you get a manhole popping off due to, not only just sewer gas, but we get them popping off when the sky opens up when it rains, which is a rare thing here in California. But I think I'd have to right off consider what resources am I going to need and getting them on scene quickly. I think most of us in the lab right now are spoiled where we work. You've got Con Ed, we've got utility workers that show up pretty quickly, but not all jurisdictions have the ability to get the utilities on scene quickly. I'm going to size up whether or not I need. I'm going to need additional crews for everything you just mentioned, with whether you shelter in place or whether you're monitoring buildings. That's that's manpower intensive. That means you're going to run out of companies quickly. So identify a good place to have a command post, identify a good staging area for all those rigs and personnel showing up. That'd be the start.
That brings up kind of an interesting question. You say, you get the manpower. We're in an area, at least I'm in an area that manpower is insane, right? Like I could have 400 guys at a street corner within 3 minutes.
And that's just on an EMS call, right?
Right. That's just on an email. Yeah, it's crazy. So what are we doing? The guys that are listening and watching this that are not in a manpower intensive area and they have very limited resources, what do you think their priorities would be as far as what they're going to be doing first? I mean, we have what is it that they should be focusing on? What's the first thing they should be going in to do? And then what's the last thing they should be going in to do?
Oof. I think that's a great. You think about your run-of-the-mill house fire. I could argue that most agencies, as much as we talk on the radio, you could probably go mute, and that in your town, first in engines maybe pulling a line, second is getting water, first truck's going to the roof. Whatever you do, you can almost do it on autopilot. But something like this, if I was on an incoming unit, well, what do we have? Do we have exploding manhole covers going down city blocks? Do we have a sick building problem? So I think in this case, more than ever, you need you need to sign somebody right away to kind of recon this thing, because whether you're second in or eighth in, you're going to be going, what do they have? What are we doing? And I know that's what, my guys are going to be doing in the back. It's like, what are we here for again? And what are we assigned to? Which as an IC, that's where you're going to start breaking it up into sectors and or groups, however you terminology you use. Start getting the information and start assigning rigs. Get them a job and figure it out. Because I think what they had today, we'll all admit that's an unusual incident. That doesn't happen every day.
Right. And you talked about what do we need, and I mentioned this in some of the previous shows. It was taught to me by a very wise and seasoned district chief, battalion chief for others across the country. My size up as an officer, what do I got? What am I doing? And what do I need? If I think of those three things and I repeat those three things over the radio, I'm painting that size up. I'm painting that picture for that incoming units, that incoming company commander. And just those three simple things pretty much sets the standard for the picture and the play for the game that you want to, get going.
What's a can report? I've never heard of that term before.
That's just a
that's somebody new on there. And welcome, C Pastor
905. Is that what your mother named you? No, conditions, actions, and needs. And this is one of those calls, like I said, so many, very good. I think it's unusual enough, and it really ties into hazmat, because if it's obvious, if you've got a plume, if you've got a rolled over tanker, it starts to get kind of obvious, I think. But you can't ever assume that everybody knows. But manholes with smoke spewing in the street, I mean, I watched it several times, and I'd love to hear some of the radio traffic, because we don't even know. I mean, what information they were getting, how good it was. But breaking it down to what Bob mentioned, life safety, but then what are the conditions? What are we doing here? And in that case, it's incredible nobody got hurt. It's just, and I can imagine in any town, you work in your town, Mike, trying to evacuate a city block before that explosion. Forget about it. I mean, forget it. People.
That's like 20,000 people in a city block, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We wouldn't even do it. We wouldn't, and I got to tell you that the streets usually aren't even blocked off. Like the sidewalks and stuff like that. It's just, even if you put up tape, people just walk right past it. It's insane. One of the things that we would generally think about, because we have these things like this so often, especially in manholes, is the surrounding manholes and the pressure building up. Because generally here in the city, when we have one manhole blow, we have multiple manhole blows. So these manhole blows can send these, 3, 4, 5, 600-pound covers 40, 50, 60 feet in the air, and you have no idea where they're going to land once they blow. And so you can have an explosion and have multiple manhole covers go off at once. So we're always aware of the other manholes and staying clear of them, making sure that none of the rigs are parked over them or anything along those lines. Trying to get cars moved. Let's say you have a vault, a manhole fire, and you've got a car over it. What do you do?
Huh.
Yeah.
You know, like these are all the kind of things that we look at. Do we put guys near there? Obviously, that becomes kind of like a conditional thing where, okay, you know, the smoke's not really pouring out. Maybe we can save this car, or the smoke's really pushing, and screw you, man. I'm not putting my guys near that.
And Jason Kerr, the Kerr dog, just brought up a good point. You know, in Jacksonville, they pull surrounding manholes during vault fires so that you don't have that, you know, potential for it flying through the air. So that's, you know, that might be a tactic to consider.
That's outstanding. I mean, why is a manhole cover round?
So it doesn't fall back in the hole.
Exactly. I mean, it's a rookie question, but you remove that thing, you just removed your flying projectile. Because I mentioned our rain, and it did happen once when it did rain here. A good storm could actually blow those things off with the water.
Just from that sudden rush of water getting into the system and the pressure.
And just, you know, if you've got a hillside, so now you're talking. But I'm thinking, I was watching that same thing, thinking if that had happened in Times Square, how do you think the dispatch would have been for your company, Mike? Incident.
It would quite literally come over as whatever the street it would be. I don't even know where Times Square is, Broadway and whatever. Smoking manhole. That's literally all it would come over as. And then the first 2 units would be showing up, and they would start giving reports, talking about how, you know, the smoke was pushing, and we have details as far as whether it's pushing, whether it's just issuing, whether it's you know, on fire. So we've got all these things that people are very used to talking about here in the city because it happens all the time. We would block off an area. We would monitor the surrounding manholes. We would send guys into surrounding buildings with their meters to meter and monitor, and we would wait. Most of the time, they subside on their own without lighting on fire. Sometimes they explode. Sometimes they light on fire. And until the power is turned off, there's really nothing that we can do. When it comes to larger vault fires, we've gone on a couple of them as a hazmat, because what ends up happening is these fires get so hot, the transformer oils, you know, all the dielectric fluid and stuff like that, that is what ends up catching in the long run. And they can't put these fires out because the vaults are so hot, the surrounding material is so hot, and now you've got an oil fire. Water is just, you know, spewing shit everywhere. The purple K doesn't work because as soon as the purple K is out of the way, it auto reignites because of the temperature. So it can be some of these larger vault fires can be pretty tricky to get under control, even once the power is off.
And what blows me away, and wasn't it the first World Trade Center incident came in as a car fire? Is that true? That's what they always say. But
93, yeah.
Yeah, the 93. I thought it came in as a car on fire in the parking garage. So, yeah, it makes me wonder there too. Depending, I mean, if a presidential candidate was in town, even though it's a vault, it sure as heck might not get the same reaction as a vault.
Oh, and, yeah.
You know, going back to hazmat, we keep talking about monitoring, and I'm going to put you on the spot again, Mike. What's your tool of choice? What are you going after? What are you looking for? What are you concerned with?
All right, so believe it or not, the initial we're not taking too much in because everything goes off. I mean, literally everything goes off. Chemical warfare agents go off, AP4Cs go off, APD-2000. Well, you can fart in the APD-2000 will go off. I'm, you know, bringing in CO is really going to be my biggest. My sewer gases, again, my confined space gases are going to be my biggest. Yes, no, that's not true. The APD-2000 is a wonderful paperweight. It's a fantastic tool.
What about the 4C?
I like the 4C.
Okay.
The AP4C is pretty decent. It has its limitations, but it gives you a pretty, you know, is something in the air with a phosphate or a sulfur bond? Yes or no? That's pretty much what it's going to give you. So I like the 4C, but again, it's going to go off. You know, all these things, all these hazmat meters, we all know that they're cross sensitive in smoke. And when you have a vault fire, you got plenty of smoke. So it's really kind of a, do you bring everything and have it go off and then oversaturate it and then let it sit, or do you kind of wait until things die down and then do the surrounding areas, do the buildings, bring your meters into them, make sure none of the toxic gases have gotten into basements and sub basements and sub basements, sewer systems, subways, the whole 9 yards.
It's easy to talk about. That sounds like an overwhelming task. I mean, it's really that's where you just hope it flashes and does its thing. And I'm sure glad nobody got hurt today. But they did seem really casual. I thought, wow, because you just taking a smoke, reading smoke off a house fire, you get that kind of pressurized. It wasn't coming out black and acrid, but it was just coming out with such. It just wanted to get moving. That I thought, wow, they're either really used to this or they're really calm, but however it went, I'm just glad nobody got hurt.
Yeah, they do. We see them, they go really fast. Within a minute, a company will just be like, oh, it's just, light smoke condition, nothing crazy. And then a minute later, they've got flames shooting out of the road. So,
and back to that can report, and I think whoever it was would back me up. But that's an ongoing assessment. That's just there's not one can report. It's kind of an ongoing thing. Just Chief, don't ask me every 5 minutes, so I'll let you know. But it's an ongoing thing.
That's why we use different tags so they can't hear us and bother me.
Yeah, turn the radio off sometimes.
At this time, we're going to land this plane.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, that was a pretty good little discussion on the St. Pete call.
Just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on once the power is off, putting the fire out?
Well, that's a good question, because I know there would be some people that would say, hey, let's foam it. Let's foam the vault. We'll fill it full of foam and walk away. Others would say,
Con Ed would really like that, I'll bet.
Yes, I bet they would.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much.
We use a product here in the city called Fire and Ice. Not giving any kind of plugs or anything like that.
Tony T.
Tony Tricarico, very big into the Fire and Ice, and he swears by it. I've never used it, but God damn it, if Tony Tricarico says it works, who the hell am I to argue?
And those of you that don't know who we're talking about, retired captain from Squad 252 at FDNY, and there was a video where they used it on an electrical fire. I believe it was like a transformer or something, right? I saw a video.
The transformer and the Christmas tree.
Yeah. Not a plug. It's not a plug, but hey, there's tools out there, and that's what we're here for, is to share information. So,
and then I guess I should throw this in there, because there was, if anybody caught it in Firehouse Magazine a couple months ago, Phoenix Fire last year had, everything we're talking about, it looked like an underground utility, a gas line breach, suspected from a power line infringement with something hitting the power lines. And sure enough, at the conclusion of that, with all sorts of readings, they called it a mysterious gas emergency, was the article, but ultimately it had nothing to do with a breached gas line. It was 9,600 KEV electrical, or our sun just turned off. 9,600 KEV electrical that was arcing underneath asphalt, off-gassing hydrocarbons, giving them readings, giving them flames. I mean, I put it on the liner notes, I think, when Jason Kerr commented. I mean, for me, power's never off, because I've had too many incidents or seen too many where once, and even the power guys you see. And I was going to mention that too. I talked about Brent Lovren, who passed away, line of duty death, LAFD, but there's utility workers. Their job is to deal with this electrical stuff, and they get hurt. They go to burn units more often than we keep track of. And they got a tough job, and they're the ones that know more about it. So I take caution.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Sit back and wait for the electric people to deal with a lot of it.
Absolutely.
So, and yes, CPASSR 905, we still use APD 2000 for riot control detection. And it's also a great meter to hide behind in case you're ever in a riot.
Yeah. So it is used at the local high school when they release pepper spray.
Actually, one of the greatest uses for the APD 2000, and not to give it any kind of plug, if you put on your Class A uniform and you go out to the street corner and you hold it straight out in front of you, you will get every car that passes to slow down to 20 miles an hour within seconds. So it does have its uses.
You know, you say that, and I was teaching a hazmat class in Saipan and then in Rhoda, and the Rhoda police chief, he's probably not there anymore. It was about 5 years ago. He took it and put it in the middle of the road and did exactly that. It was awesome. Good stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway. All right.
Put a few cars down that way.
Moving on.
What else do we got? You got you wanted to talk a little, Cosch, about a refuse storage fire that you had recently.
Yeah. So let's, before I tell you what we did or didn't do, let's kind of go around the table, so to speak. That's what we're here for, and talk about what everybody else would do. So you get called to that. I think the dispatch came in at everybody. Let me back up. Everybody's got them where they collect the garbage. They take it to a central point. It's then dumped out of the garbage trucks. It's either separated into whatever category, and then it's pushed into a hole where semi trucks drive underneath, and it goes into an open truck, and then they take it to the landfills. So this particular building, I'm going to say easy 200, maybe 300 feet by 50, 75 wide. 12 o'clock at night, you get dispatched to that fire, your first due area, which I'm sure you've checked out. What's your response going to be?
Probably, why am I here? That would be my first response.
And can't we let this stuff burn until A shift comes on?
It's garbage. Let it burn. It's getting incinerated anyway.
Yeah, it's going somewhere. So as a first due engine company, I'm going to try and take the hazmat cap off for just a second. As a first due engine company, knowing my first due area like we all should, that's why we're called professional firefighters. Whether we're actually paid or volunteer, we're still in a profession. I'm going to try and approach the scene obviously from the right side of the wind, because we are dealing with garbage. But we all know, I mean, what do you throw away in garbage? I know what I throw away what I used to throw in garbage before I became a hazmat guy.
Nope, I still throw them away.
So, but we all know that it's, even though it's supposed to be construction waste or yard waste or whatever, we know there's other stuff that's in there that shouldn't be. So as a first due engine company officer, my role is going to be to approach it from the right side of the wind, meet the occupants on scene to find out exactly what they have in there or what they think they have going on. Forget the fact of it's just construction waste. As far as I'm concerned, it's a bigger dumpster. Okay. And then I'm going to start looking for water supplies. I'm going to start seeing where could this potentially go and where's the smoke going to go. Now, that's not a hazmat thing. That should be a regular, everyday operational level company officer standpoint. Where's the smoke going to go? Because as we know, smoke is toxic, whether it has actual chemicals burning in it or not. Smoke by its very nature is toxic. So where's it going to go? Do I need to evacuate? Do we need to shelter in place, whatnot? And basically build upon that from there. That's the first due engine company, truck company, whatever, the first due unit on scene operation, in my opinion.
I think in addition to the smoke, you got where's the water going to go? And I say that because any runoff considerations. But as you described it, Bob, I mean, it's like rolling up on a house with cars in the driveway and kids' bikes versus, the house when we talked about several weeks ago, a house that's been tented for fumigation that you're, somebody mentioned it on the side. You're there for life safety first. And unless they're telling me, yeah, we got a whole homeless encampment down the side there, people trapped, it's a different story. I'd be considering big water. I'd be considering defensive operations, at least for apparatus placement. You described lumber, but a recycling yard fire, it could be a pesky, just like a scrapyard fire. Those are the ones, that just, they take a lot of water, a lot of BTUs and a lot of time, up to and including dozers. I mean, we have within the county, heck, for their fires, they could bring in a dozer on a house fire if they wanted to for overhaul. So all of those considerations. But I'm glad you mentioned the smoke, and then also the water. We might not be able to do anything about it immediately, but it's going to be a consideration.
I want to make a quick comment about, and Bob Stern says, and you have an SCBA on, right? And this is kind of one of those places. This is one of those, the really nice to be able to do, and then the logistically, it's just not possible to be on air for 4 or 5 hours. And you have your in reality, you have it with you, but unless you're going to be taking a feed, nobody's putting their mask on, and nobody's, sitting
And
on
I'll-
air for 3 or 4 hours.
Right, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute.
So it can be hard. Did you lose sound, Phil?
Oh, I was going to mute it because we had interlopers. Yes, I agree on that. Although it's funny because Kurt, Kurt, Bob, he's taking out his regular fire pit and putting in a gas pit because as much as the fire pit's nice, it's kind of sick of the smoke in the face, and that's natural wood. But now you're burning some, there's states and or agencies that don't even use that and should that disallow the press board for their flashover containers. Now you have an entire fire full of it. You better get your air unit there, because I guess my reaction to that is you're going to go through a lot of bottles, just like you're going to go through a lot of water.
And depending on the situation too, because these buildings are basically Butler buildings. They are sprinklered, although we know sprinklers are really going to do nothing. Guys are going to have their air packs at least on their backs. They're going to be on the upside of the wind, not in the smoke, hopefully. If they are, then yes, they should absolutely be on air. If they're not, then yes, they are a fool. But as far as what actually happens, I'll kind of talk about in a few minutes. So getting back to what you guys would do as a first due. So I talked about the first due officer, Phil, as the first due chief, let's say. What's some of the boom. I just dropped that grenade.
Easy. I'm going to fire SUV. I'm going to back in to the most inconvenient parking spot and block a few rigs coming in.
I'm going to sit in the AC. I'm going to smoke a cigar. I'm going to drink coffee. And you can't smoke a cigar in a car. That's not allowed. But I'm going to drink coffee and just say check over the radio. Okay, so now go.
Well, I think it's first in. We all have to, it's no different than being the IC. The IC is just managing everything. If it's set up right by those first in, it should be awfully easy. That's what, we all strive for, right? You set up the incident right, and then it kind of runs itself. It's the bigger picture. We talked about the smoke, but now shelter in place versus that, whether you're at displaced occupants. And now more than ever, it's just common. And we have to always think about it with hazmat. It's a PIO fire. It's going to make the news. You're going to need some help there. You're going to need somebody that can talk to the news and deal with that, because depending on what neighborhood is in question, you're going to have some explaining to do. People are going to be asking you a whole lot of questions. So all those canned reports from the field, you're going to have to start, as they say in Phoenix, sectors. We call it groups and divisions. You set it up just like if it was a brush fire, really, with operations on how to go out, go and put it out, which I'm pretty confident it's going to go out, and then how you can do it safely and pass on that information.
Right. And well, before we start getting into what actually happened, Mike, you got anything?
Well, first of all, I just want to clarify. I'm talking about being outside of the building and not having a mask on, being in the yard and not being masked up. As far as ever entering a building, if you're taking in smoke, then you need to be a mask on. But being outside the building, it's not possible.
You already said it. You can't take it back.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, you knew what I meant.
I did.
But everyone else is exploding. I'm like, wait, you talk about being outside.
Who's the cancer survivor in the room? So you know more than anybody. Exactly.
You want to see? Oh, never mind.
No.
That's borderline porn. We don't want to do that.
Please no.
So from a hazmat point of view, I think as we pull up, our biggest concern is going to be the runoff. I think we're going to be contemplating that as being a hazmat, and then just whatever possibility might be in there. We have some of these areas that are isolated, these refuge areas, are radiation, where they go and they'll take the radiation, they'll medical waste, and they'll dump it for 7, 10, 15 days just to kind of let it sit and go through its half-lives. I think that's a definitely something that we need to consider. So you should always have your radiological detection equipment, and it's just treating it as a complete unknown. Just anything could happen. Bottles could pop and explode. Things could levy. Um, just treating it like a giant unknown and taking things as they come and expecting anything to happen.
I think that's an excellent. Back in the day when I had my body dog, we got called to the dump all the time for suspicious circumstances. Body being your people, Bob, taking care of business, swimming with the fishes. But when you're walking around on a big pile of waste, there's black trash bags everywhere full of stuff, and there's things, there's sharp things, there's canisters, there's just all sorts of. So going all the way back to that life safety issue, unless you got, hey, the guy that was running the scraper or something, he's still missing. You might have a rescue consideration, but outside of that, you're looking at containing this thing and hopefully having that heavy equipment. I think it was Jason Kerr on the side. If you don't have heavy equipment, know who to call, and really treating it as ultimately a defensive fire.
Right. And as far as the black bags, just, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but you guys talk about black bags. You guys come across that bag on the side of the road that's black, like we mentioned, could be anything in it. And what they're using now in meth labs, that's how they're throwing away their waste. These one pots, all these other things, they're throwing them around in the waste.
So in California now, we're going to outlaw the black trash bag, is what I'm hearing. That should solve our problem.
That will never happen in New York because, as you put it, my people use those.
Use guys.
What are we gonna?
I'm bringing them down to Florida here. Us guys use them here in Florida.
What are we gonna put bodies in? Jesus.
Yeah, we'll have to resort to the 55-gallon drum and some lye. I didn't say that, did I? So that's and that's a very good point, because there's different things that could be tossed to the side, and you have no idea what you're dealing with.
Yeah, I think even the fire they had the other day, if you guys saw it on TV, Seal Beach, which is in Orange County, they had a abandoned building on the end of a pier, and it was kind of fun to watch for just basic tactics. They knew nobody was in there, so they kind of held back, let the boats do it. But I was fascinated by the water supply, because it looks like they initially tried the pier supply, which looked like a 2.5 standpipe that was probably rusted shut. And you see guys humping 4-inch while there's another guy driving around in a gator. Why didn't you just put the 4-inch on that? But
that was the chief.
It all comes back to the basics of all these things. From can report was mentioned, but is there a rescue consideration? How am I going to fight this fire? And it's eventually going to go out. I don't know that there's any, maybe the Olympic torch, but there's not many fires that are still burning right now that we got called on.
So to kind of, unless you guys have anything else, I'll kind of go into an actual incident that happened in Florida. Good. Okay. So the units got dispatched to the fire that we were just talking about. Ironically, the same area, same building caught on fire about 10 years ago. Same situation, because as we know, there's all kinds of things that could get tossed in there. And that fire was put out using foam probably within about 4 or so hours. So this particular incident started around midnight, went till 7 a.m. And the fire department in question, it was piles, and we're talking 60, 70 feet high of garbage. Now, the on-site people said there was nothing hazardous in there. We all know that to be, it's just like you go to any place. Security guard goes, oh, there's no problem. We don't trust security guards. We do our own investigation. We do our own due diligence, because that's our job. They had active fire when they pulled up on scene. The guys approached the scene in the right direction of the wind, so that they didn't have to even though they had their SCBAs on their backs, they didn't have to go on air. And then they decided that the best thing, because this was so compacted, was to get some backhoes, some front end loaders that have actual air recirculation systems because of the smell, to separate some of it after the guys initially did some knockdown with remote monitors. And that's what they did. Unfortunately, what happened was, because foam wasn't involved in the initial operation, it took a little while for things to get moved along into a progressive state to where they could separate it in such a manner that they could hit it from a couple of different directions. This is a little rudimentary, but as I mentioned before, that's one of the initial size ups of a unit that was pulling up on scene. And then a hole had to be cut in the side of the building for the aerial apparatus to extend their guns inside. Once they did that, they were able to start knocking down the fire to a certain extent. And then the backhoe operator still had to get inside and separate the piles. So it was a long operation. It lasted for several hours. And one of the things that was noted was that, and these pictures were sent to me, one of the things that was noted was that although they mentioned this was a non-hazardous event, there were still items in there that could be seen later on, like that 55-gallon poly drum you see right there, and plastics and such. So there were a lot of things in there that we can't take for granted.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the other things that was mentioned, and you can see how tall these piles were. I mean, we're talking 60, 70 feet high. One of the things that was mentioned, spools of wire. Okay. What does wire put off? When you're burning any type of insulation off of, because people do it in certain areas. I don't want to be, I guess I should be PC, in poorer areas to get the copper and sell the money, whatever. What did the type of plastics put off? Like Jason Kerr just mentioned, ACN. Okay. What else? We got vinyl chlorides. We got cyanides. We got benzenes. We got all kinds of stuff. So
Chlorine.
I mean, there was one report was a 5-gallon bucket that somebody actually watched the backhoe hit, and this yellow cloud came out from it. What the hell was that? Now, being a construction type material in there, was probably just construction chalk, but who actually knows? Going back to my original point, don't listen to, I shouldn't say don't listen to. Yeah, well, don't even get me started on that. But that's why I'm just a dumbass lieutenant for life. Actually, only 46 more months to be correct.
Well, one rank higher than this dumbass firefighter. So,
yeah, 46 more months and I'm out. But don't take it for granted for what people told you. When I was a young truck company fireman, my lieutenant always told me, don't listen to Barney. Barney being the Barney 5 security guard that said, hey, everything's okay. We're good to go. Don't do that. Do your investigation, do your due diligence, and find out exactly what's there. When you're dealing with something of this particular incident, a waste management area, it's a bigger dumpster. That's all it is. We know what dumpster fires are like. Unfortunately, we got to, and even on my department, and I harp on them when I see it, we get too many guys fighting dumpster fires without putting their mask on. It's just a dumpster fire. And then you sit there and you tell them what's in the dumpster. If anybody wants to find out any more information, just go to the Firefighter Cancer Support Network and see. And I'm not going to get on that whole soapbox right now because that's one of my big ones. Put your SCBA on, do what you need to do. The guys that cut that hole that I showed, we were talking about SCBAs a few minutes ago. Those guys were in the bucket for 4 hours. When they were in the smoke, they were on the breathing system off of the truck the whole time. So make sure you decon your gear, do whatever you need to do to protect yourself. Long story short, foam in this particular operation would have been a huge help. Would have, if nothing else, reduce it from 8 hours to 4. That foam, remember, depending what type of foam you buy, Universal Gold, Fire, whatever, there's all kinds out there. You want something that's going to soak in. As they're separating it, it'll still soak in. And you're going to do two things at once, not just pull stuff apart and flow water, pull stuff apart and flow water. So just a little food for thought. If you can get foam on the scene, and there was a discussion amongst some people, we don't have enough foam on board. How much foam do you need? Well, you know what? That's a calculation that you probably should already know. You should already have a cheat sheet written out. If I have X amount of volume of fire, I need X amount of volume of foam. Where you're going to get it, and have that written out on a cheat sheet. So at 3 a.m., you know what to do and who to call if you need it. Because it could be a garbage truck fire. It could be a big fire like this, or it could be a gasoline tanker burning. You don't know.
Excellent, Bob.
Did they eventually go to foam?
No.
No, they didn't even try it at all.
Wow. I think the biggest takeaway I get with that is you don't have a rescue. It's a different kind of fire. And we kind of were joking about it with the inside or outside SCBA, but what usually I think I see happens the most often, and you mentioned that they had to cut to be able to get the master streams in there. And we were on a commercial one recently as Hazmat, and so it's exterior, they've gone defensive, but they had to start cutting some doors to get the master streams in there. And I tell you, it's that threshold of they're not inside, they're kind of outside. They were just outside, now they're approaching. We watched it with, we actually saw the video because it happened right before we got there, but bad things can happen when you're right at the edge of a structure cutting, especially, and you're not gonna, you're not rescuing the baby in the crib through the bedroom window. You're dealing with a public storage fire, a junkyard, all this crap. And I think that, to use the word, the gray area right there. And I've seen the crew do it. They've been standing there, then they're told, hey, go ahead and breach that there. And they didn't have their breather on because they didn't need it 50 feet away, and they knew they weren't going in the building. So put it on. It's not worth it.
No, it's not. And speaking of the foam, the whole foam thing, a lot of departments carry 2 or 3 5-gallon buckets of foam. I'm fortunate in my department, every engine has a 30-gallon foam tank on board. We have a foam truck that has 500 gallons of foam. So when and then each engine also has 2 5-gallon buckets of foam. So when you all add it all up, it's almost like, I don't know, 1,100 gallons of foam. I got enough foam to put out, the whole airport if it's on fire, quite honestly. Yeah. But know what you have and how to use it. You get what?
We got a couple gallons of foam scattered throughout the city.
Yeah, like a couple 20 trucks full of foam. I know what you got.
Just don't call the airport crash foam trucks if it's raining and they've never driven on the street before. It probably wouldn't be a good idea. Just might not be.
Oh my!
Might not be a good idea.
I'm gonna go off on a quick something that had absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. But we had an axle break on a tractor trailer, swung around and hit both of the saddle tanks, spewed oil everywhere. About a quarter mile of the road is completely covered in oil, like as if a sprinkler had gone off. And the roads are all closed off, and this jackhole on a bicycle dived off the sidewalk, around the fire trucks, onto the oil, and the entire group of us just like, oh, here it comes.
That's awesome.
It was about 5 feet onto the slippery diesel asphalt, and man, he took a good header. And all we did was laugh.
That's awesome.
It was sorry, I don't know why that just thought.
Oh, great.
We were dying. He scattered out of there fast when we started making fun of him.
That's awesome.
That's good stuff, Bob.
Anyway, yeah.
So what do you think are some things that they could have done differently?
Well,
if you could have turned around and changed things, what would you have done? Not second guessing your chiefs or trying to get you in trouble, but just as maybe next time.
I didn't say it was my department.
Fair enough.
So the bottom line is this: what we need to do, as I'm going to talk as hazmat technician level for a second. What we need to do is in a better form is to train those under us and train those above us. Not to pick on anybody, but we need to make sure that we let everybody in our department, wherever it is, how big or how small. Know what your capabilities are, what will work and what won't work. One of the, foam was suggested in the initial onset, and there was some discussion as to whether or not we had enough available. So basically it comes down to an education. We need to teach people what we have. Jason's mentioned money. You know what? Normally, bro, I would say yes, but not in this case. This was nothing more than education, and that's what it boiled down to. When you have somebody that shows up on the scene that has been involved in hazmat for 20-something years and is a hazmat officer for probably half that, you might want to listen to what they're saying. They're not always right, but 99% of the time they're right, especially when it comes to something like this, or they've been on the same thing at the same place. There were a few different things that could have been done right. Yes, foam, absolutely. Call it from the onset. Air monitoring. There was not air monitoring going on. Air monitoring should have been done not only for the people on scene, but for the residents around. So I would say, as a first due company officer, lessons learned from this incident from this department: call for foam early, call your resources early, and get your air monitoring done. Not only immediately around the scene for the protection of the people, but a little bit outside the scene, maybe around the property lines for the residents. We talk about, somebody mentioned race systems. We have the MSA safe site. Get it out there, set it up. What's it going to hurt? We set these things up for special events. Most of the departments around the country got these things for grant money. Okay. Don't just use them for that special thing. Use them all the time. You get a chlorine leak, set it up. You got an ammonia leak, set it up. You've got a refuge fire, set it up. Let's start using these things a little bit more. There's so many.
If it's a refuge fire, take your AP2C and throw it in it.
Yes.
Yes.
But what we need to do, we are, if you look across the country, not to get on a political soapbox, they're attacking fire and law enforcement. We do a horrible job at selling ourselves. We have all these great tools. We are so well trained, but we don't want anybody to know what we got and how we do things. We need to do a better job of promoting ourselves. And the only way of doing that is to train on the equipment we have. And by that, I mean from the fire chief down to the rookie fireman. Let them know what we got, even the politicians, if you can, because then they see what a reliable and valuable, keyword, valuable resource they have at their disposal. Gosh, for president. You don't want me for president, dude. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents. Early on, foam, air monitoring, lots of water. And as far as the runoff, somebody mentioned earlier, they actually had a containment system underneath. So that was their whole, it didn't go anywhere. We didn't have to worry. They didn't have to worry about that.
Nice. All right. Anybody got anything else? Any questions from the audience?
Nope. That's it.
The reply. He's watching it.
You know me too well. Yeah, the Cosch party. Anyway, nope, that's it.
All right. And want to talk about where we will be in the next couple of weeks. We'll be down in Baltimore, right? You guys will both be there.
Well, yes.
You'll be down. We'll be up. He'll be across. Whatever.
Right. Across, down, left,
Across.
right. What are you guys doing in Baltimore?
We're going to have a booth in Baltimore. Check out booth number 207 for HazSim. We're going to be there doing that. Bobby and Mike are going to be teaching some stuff. So we're actually, I think we're still working the final details for, I don't know if you want to call it after party or whatever, but some type of gathering of Hazmanauts.
A little love.
Ooh.
A little love. What, Saturday, Phil, right?
Yeah, Saturday night.
Saturday night, Baltimore. So I think that's the 18th.
Yes, and I think. Oh, that was cute. We all looked like we were looking at each other.
Oh.
At least from my point of view. I think actually Salvo has the very last lecture lecture of the very last day.
That's always a
So,
really well attended class. I've taught that one at other events. That's
where
great,
like two people
Yeah.
show up, right?
that's a great one.
And it's the one that turns on the lights and
you
turns
were-
on the audio.
That's where you sit down as if you're a student and pretend that, hey, where's this guy? Is he showing up? Because I'm about to leave.
You're a big
Oh,
deal
yeah.
because they saved you best for last. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We got that.
But
Bob's going to be in Utah, I think, tomorrow. That's a party.
Yeah, I'm flying out to Salt Lake City tomorrow, do some training out there. Yep.
And,
with who?
Quick out and back. Oof.
My brother-in-law's unified firefighter in Salt Lake City.
No.
compare notes.
I'll have to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, some
right.
industrials. And then
Yeah.
we should throw it out now because it's going to come up sooner than later. Nashville, Firehouse Expo Nashville.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Going to be off the
Doing a little
hook.
something in
And
Nashville.
Hazsim's actually going to be one of the sponsors. There will be a some sort of famous country western person and a rooftop bar in Nashville, and also with
That's going to be off the hook.
Firefighter Cancer Sport Network, and we'll be teaching some good stuff there. So
And it's hasn't been confirmed yet, but we are probably also going to be in Virginia Beach in was it September?
Virginia Beach, and Todd Burton, and I always got to say thanks to Todd Burton. Yeah, Haslam's going to be at
At
San
San
Francisco
Francisco
Fire Department.
Yep.
So that's like all over the world,
Dude.
basically.
Dude, we're crazy. It's getting out of control.
Yeah, we're burning a lot of fuel in that jet.
Yes, the bar will be open for you to pay for drinks. Absolutely. We will not go into the bar when
Yes,
it's closed.
Saturday night. If you're gonna want to go watch Boar Ball, have at it. But Saturday night there will be some drinks going on. And
The Yankees ain't playing. I'm not watching. So
yeah, so that's what I got. And
All right, go.
everybody that showed up, I appreciate it. And then don't forget, because if you forget it, the Hazmat Guys podcast, if you're not listening, listen to it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, because
Yeah.
I don't forget, because I have it on my swimming iPod and I listen to them regularly, and I read
I will do the plug for you. The Hazmat Guys podcast. If you guys don't have it, download it. Great information. Besides the going to YouTube or whatever, listen to or watching the 21 episodes of this Hazmat Guys podcast. What are you guys up to now? 29?
I want to say 28, 29. We're doing. We're both working on a different series right now. I'm working on LP and propane. Bob is working on chemical warfare agents.
Yeah.
He's
So
doing a big thing.
it's a great learning tool. That's why we all got into this. It's about sharing the information. Thanks for Martin from Rescue TV for popping in. Another great resource.
Yeah.
So
Mark, I'm sorry to interrupt. Fire Rescue TV. If you guys aren't checking it out, retired fireman from Virginia Beach, outstanding guy. He's there for us, and it's really good stuff. If your station can get one, try to get one. But it's Fire Rescue TV. Check them out on Facebook or their website. If you meet Martin, he's one heck of a guy, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
So if you guys want to get a hold of us, you can reach me at Bob Cosch or Bob Cosch. Well, that's a long question, isn't it? How about we do this? You go, true. It sounds like the same thing. HZNTLT at gmail.com, at Twitter, or at Hazmat.com.
I'm just Mike at the Hazmat Guys. Do anything with the Hazmat Guys, Facebook, Twitter. Don't do Twitter. Nobody actually does Twitter. I don't know.
I'm moving all my stuff to Pinterest.
Oh, with the lattice cakes and
Hey,
and cupcakes and stuff like that.
It's got the little Girl Scouts and stuff in it, though, right?
Go with the flow.
Yes.
The Martha Stewart of Hazmat.
I do want to mention one thing for everybody listening. We are looking at some other possible venues for our show, so stay tuned. We will update everybody through all of our Facebook pages, whether the Hazmat Guys Nation Roundtable, HazSim, Hazmat Nation, the Hazmat Guys, mine, whatever. We will let everybody know where we will be if and when we ever make the change. So
we'll tell one
keep
fireman, and that'll be okay.
Yeah. Telegraph, telephone, tell fireman. There you go.
and we'll just we'll keep the blab going, and we'll just put a sign up that says "Please go here."
Yeah.
Go
So that's
that way.
yeah,
New venue,
way.
a whole new
new venue.
whole new venue. Whole new
So yeah,
venue.
hoping the new venue works out. It may be it would be really good because this is a great venue, but it seems really finicky. The times that there's been problems,
It's been Bob's fault.
Yeah.
it's all
When were all the problems when Bob wasn't on?
We're recording, or I would tell you exactly what I
It's
think.
a problem. All right. Thanks everybody for joining, and I appreciate all the
Cheers.
side comments.
All right, guys, love you all.